Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's installment of the Emotional Intelligence Schools Facebook Live. And this week, we are going to talk about rage. And rage is not an easy thing to talk about, and it's not an easy thing to process. But we're going to talk about it today. So the first thing I want to say about rage is we have a lot of it in the culture that we live in. Very extreme examples of it are public mass murders. We have seen more and more of those, and it doesn't look like they are going to go away anytime soon. So dealing with rage is really important because if we don't deal with it, there's a lot of collateral damage. And unfortunately, the people who are on the receiving end of that collateral damage often have nothing to do with why the person is in a rage. That's not to say, like, if they did, that they deserved, to be terrorized or attacked. But it just sends vibrations throughout the culture, and people rightly don't feel safe in the culture, and that contributes to a decrease in everybody's quality of life. So dealing with rage is very important. Now, most of us do not go out and vent our rage in such tragic and dramatic ways, but we do experience the intensity of rage, the feeling of out of control and feeling out of control. And also we can experience being on the receiving end of people's rage in our lives. And unfortunately, we can also unleash our rage on others. And that damages relationships for sure, and it makes it really hard to build a healthy relationship. But even more importantly, I feel when you act out of rage, you damage your relationship with yourself. And the reason for that is there's always a part of us that's the observer, and the observer realizes that if you will vent on other people because you feel they deserve it or because you can't help yourself, the observer understands that what you do, you're going to attract to you or accept into your life. And there's kind of a fine line here. When I say accept into your life, people can rage at me all they want to, but because I don't rage at other people anymore, I have done it in the past, we all have. When it comes at me, it doesn't have the same impact because I've learned to process it, and I don't process my rage in a way that harms other people. So I'm sorry, that totally threw me for a loop, that text. I should turn this thing off when I'm doing this. I'm sorry. So anyway, So I was saying so it'll damage your relationship, and but if you don't know how to process your rage and you unleash it on other people, whether you intend to or not, when other people behave the same way toward you, you're not going to be able to resist the urge to feel indignant and to get caught up in the drama, is what I'm trying to say. So, so let me go back to my outline because I don't want to get too far off track. Okay, so let's talk about what rage is. We've all experienced it. If we're, you know, over 5, let's say, or 3, or how about the terrible twos? We've all experienced it. But rage is actually, rage in adults is really different. What it is it's a buildup of anger over time around a common theme. So it's a pattern, and it has a lot of habit energy behind it. So if you find yourself in a situation that triggers you into rage, one thing you know for sure is that this current incident is very much related to past incidences that are similar. That's why you're getting into a rage. And the reason the anger builds up over time is because the anger hasn't been processed as it was happening. And we have a tendency to bookmark these intense traumatic events in our lives until we learn to address it, until we learn to slay that Jabberwocky like Alice in Wonderland. So, so it's very intense. And it's, like I said, it's destructive to relationships, especially your relationship with yourself, your ability to have self-esteem and confidence. So, so let's talk about, I like to think about rage when I need to process it as like diffusing a bomb, because there is so much intense energy behind it. If you don't process it carefully, you'll unleash that energy on somebody else or feel intense anger yourself toward yourself. So the first thing you want to do is knock that energy down. And the way to do that is going to be completely personal. So I like to use the example of Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump finally he had this realization that Jenny was not going to be his, you know, his woman, his wife. And so he just ran, and he ran all the way across America. And that was what he did to just knock down that energy. And for some people, it could be going to the beach. For some people, it could be going to the forest. It could be yelling in the forest. It could be anything that you know how to do to dissipate that intense energy. And here's how you'll know when you've dissipated it. You're going to feel a little calmer, but what you're going to have is some spinning thoughts and some internal dialogue. So if you've ever had that argument in your head, like relive those arguments, or just having spinning thoughts like that shouldn't have happened, I don't understand why that happened, When you get to that stage where you're having the spinning thoughts, you're actually making progress. So that's good news. So that when you get to that stage, the next thing you need to do is have compassion for yourself. So why do you need compassion for yourself? The reason you need compassion for yourself is because this current situation that's brought you to rage relates to a situation in your past that has never been properly healed. So the amount, the intensity of the anger that you feel in that rage is directly correlated to the amount of pain that you felt so long ago when you were first, when you first experienced this type of interaction, some kind of trauma or betrayal. So this is really important because if you can realize how angry you are and then understand that you were in an equal amount of pain at that time, you can really feel compassion for that younger version of you who didn't have the resources, who didn't have the skills or the agency to act in a way to prevent that pain. And this is a huge, huge healing turning point in healing rage and anger. And it builds a lot of self-trust and eventually self-esteem and confidence. So you're going to want to realize that you were in quite a lot of pain and unable to really do anything constructive about it. That's why it got bookmarked, and that's why the situation keeps repeating itself. It's going to repeat itself until you fully address it. And that's why we're talking about this today, so it can be fully addressed. So, but I want to offer you, there's a part 2 to this compassion for yourself, and I want to offer you this fantastic hack that will just really make this process go so much more quickly and easily. And that is, there's a woman named Josie Ong, O-N-G, and Josie has a podcast called Affirmation Pod. Now, if you're like allergic to the law of attraction, don't worry, because it's not a bunch of fluffy affirmations. It's actually a nicely curated group of affirmations that are very intelligently thought out, and they're arranged around themes, so you can find the theme that you're looking for. And what's great about Josie's affirmations is that she meets you where you are. So if you're very agitated, that affirmation will start from that place and then gradually move along. So why do we want to listen to Josie? The reason we want to listen to her is because most of us did not grow up with a wise and loving mentoring parent. And this is not to disparage our parents. They did the best they could. But consequently, we don't have examples of what a wise, loving, mentoring parent would say to us. And we have to learn how to be that for ourselves. And if we haven't had it, it's really much harder to figure out what that is. So what's amazing about Josie is on your phone or on your computer, you can just click and get exactly the kind of words that you need to hear. Now, I even have something even better. Josie has an app for your phone, and what's awesome about that is it takes out the introduction and the marketing in her podcast, which is on iTunes, and the closure to her podcast. So you just get the straight affirmations. Plus, she's curated them around themes, and you can download them, and you can listen to them even if you're not online. And Josie has been kind enough to give listeners of the Emotional Intelligence School weekly Facebook Live and YouTube videos a special discount. So it's and it's an amazing discount. It's like 60%, I think. And what it does, it brings the cost down to like $17 and change. So if you go to the emotionalintelligenceschool.com, on the top tabs to your right, there's a resource tab. If you click on that resource tab, you'll see Josie Ong's information. You can click through to her website to download her app. And if you put TEIS for the initials for the Emotional Intelligence School in the coupon code, then you'll get that great discount. And I highly, highly recommend her podcast and her app. It's just amazing. It's amazing support. Okay, so we took the intense energy down. We cultivated compassion for ourselves by understanding how painful it was for us when we originally encountered this problem that has been reoccurring and has just triggered us into rage. And now we have listened to a very supportive, loving, wise, mentoring voice to help us process what we're going through, but also to teach us how to speak that way to ourselves, how to internalize that voice. And then the next thing we're going to do is a do-over. And this is a journaling exercise where you're going to write down what happened, what the other person said or didn't say or didn't do, what you said, what you did or didn't do or didn't say. You're going to write down as best as you can, as if you were an observer, as if you were recording it, like as if you were the camera person recording it. And after you get that all down, then you're going to rewrite this scene as if you would have wanted it to play out. And you can do that in a couple of different ways. You could do it from the perspective of how you responded exactly the way it happened, or you can even write what you wish the other person would have done or said. I would do both because it's going to give you a lot of great information. And after you do that, you're going to have a clear understanding of how you want to be in relationships and how you want other people to be and behave toward you in relationships. And this is very important because if we don't know where we're going, we're not going to get there. We have to know where we're going. And we have to know why. So you could even write why you would want that situation to go that way. Excuse me. So, and then the next part of this exercise is to identify the tools and skills that you need to have that situation go the way that you would like it to go in the future. Because like it or not, it's going to keep happening until it gets properly addressed, until you have the skills and tools and the self-awareness to address it. And this is all doable. It takes time and practice, and it's not instant. And of course, like in the case of rage, like who wouldn't want instant? I mean, come on, it's really, really challenging, but it does take some practice. So identify those tools and skills. Okay, so more often than not, these tools are going to be developing your emotional intelligence, developing your communication skills, developing good boundaries, learning how to communicate good boundaries. These are the things these are the tools you're going to want to identify, and this is what you're going to want to learn and master in your life. These tools are as important as reading and writing and mathematics. We just don't learn them in the culture. That's why the culture is so dysfunctional. And that's why we have crazy men running around like shooting people they don't even know because they're in a rage. Okay, so let's see what else. Okay, so that's actually everything on there. Now all I want to add is that, like I said, it does take time and practice, but it can be like a much shorter and a much simpler journey and a much more enjoyable and rewarding journey if you work with someone who's been there before, and if you work with someone who, like me, this is my passion. I love the skills of emotional intelligence, and I love what it can do for you, because there is nothing like having a situation like this come up again and you just crush it. And then it's never an issue again. I mean, you might have people like continue to try to push your buttons, but like after you reach a level of proficiency in your skill, it doesn't matter what they do. They can do whatever they want to do all day long. Oh, there is one thing I did forget. When you identify the tools and skills, you also want to ask yourself, what do I need to do for this particular situation where you got triggered into rage? Do you need to limit your time or even cut that person out for a while? This is for your own self-preservation and to give you the time you need to like pick up these tools. You don't want to keep like getting in situations like this and getting caught up in so much drama that you can't really step outside of it and evolve the way you need to evolve so that you can crush it. So you can ask yourself, like, if I talk to this person, will it move me forward, move them forward? Will they get defensive? Will they gaslight you? You have to kind of look, before you decide to do anything, try to figure out like what that outcome might be and save yourself some grief and heartache by, just taking the best possible action so that you can move forward and gain leverage so you can live the kind of life you want to live, so you can live your own happily ever after. So if you want to cut down that learning curve, I would love to work with you. I would so enjoy it, and it would be, it would really cut down how long it takes if you just try to learn these skills on your own, like I did before I developed them. So if you're interested in that, go to the emotionalintelligenceschool.com. There's a contact page. You can send me an email, and I usually respond to emails within 24 hours. And I'll send you, like, I'll read your email. You can tell me a little bit about what you're struggling with and what you'd like, what you're thinking and what you'd like to do. And I'll send you a few questions maybe to clarify. And then we can have a chat on the phone and talk a little bit more. And if it feels like it's something you want to move forward with, and I feel like it's a good fit and I can actually be the support that you really need, then I'll make an offer and we can work together. So I want to thank you so much for watching this video, for liking it and sharing it. I thank you so much for joining the Emotional Intelligence School Facebook page if you feel so inspired. And I do these videos every Thursday at 5 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time. So feel free to join me. And if you miss the video, it's fine. It's posted on the website, on Facebook, and on YouTube. So you can, whatever platform you like to view these things on, we got it pretty covered. So anyway, thank you so much and have a great weekend. Aloha.